Okay, welcome back to the craft room. It's been a hot minute since I've been in here doing anything really. The last few months have been a bit chaotic with trying to pivot and figure out stuff for my small business, as well as doing home renovations, which are taking exponentially longer than expected and running into tons of roadblocks. So I've kind of haven't really done any sort of crafting or sewing or cosplay stuff even, and I really miss it, and it's definitely a big factor in my not feeling super well. So armed with the knowledge that I'm probably not going to be able to move down into my new studio space for quite a while, I have decided to put my attention back to this room so that I could actually still create and get that fulfillment of creating new projects and just having fun again. This room had definitely become a dumping ground. I usually just like bring things in here, put them in a pile in a corner, and then walk away. So that took a lot of sorting. The last couple of weeks I've spent slowly like sorting through stuff, organizing things, getting my bookshelves and stuff situated correctly so that I can have my desk in one spot. I can have light from the window still, and everything just organized in a way that I can see it all and feel inspired to create. I'm almost done with everything here. There's a couple of things that are left outstanding, so I figured since they're kind of low stakes, it'll be great to ease back into the creative process, and I thought I would take you guys along with me because I feel like you guys could also use some of these projects that I'm going to be doing in your rooms or in your spaces. The first project I'm going to be tackling is the pegboards behind me. Every craft room I have, I always put up a pegboard or two because I'm very visual and first order retrievability is super important to me when I'm working, and pegboards are ideal for that kind of situation. They currently are not very well organized. I kind of haphazardly put things up. I organized them just a little bit over the years, and they've just kind of like morphed into put things on there and forget about it. And they were also originally meant for a different layout in this room. So now that I have my table here and I'm sitting here with my back towards them, I'm gonna organize them a little bit differently so that I can reach stuff easier for my sewing machine and my serger and my embroidery machine, and kind of prioritize that over some of the other stuff that I've had on here before, because now I have storage elsewhere in this room that I've accommodated other things for. So we're gonna start with making a thread stand for these pegboards. I'm probably gonna need to 3D model something to print because I don't entirely know how we're gonna get that accomplished, but I feel like it'll be fun to have threads up here so I can reach them a lot easier for my sewing machine. So that's the first thing we're gonna tackle. So let's go figure out some materials and a plan. Most of my sewing threads I keep in this bag here, along with some overflow serging thread. And then I have this thread stand here for my embroidery threads, and it works great for the smaller cones, but any of the serger cones tend to fall off whenever I reach for them, so I want to make something similar for the pegboard, but a little more sturdy. I have a bunch of these wooden dowels from the dollar store, so I think I'm going to design something that I can 3D print that these dowels can slot into, and then I can use them as the supports for all of my thread cones on the pegboard. While coming up with the design for this, I had to keep a few things in mind. I wanted the peg portion and the thread holder portion to be modular so I can print them individually and kind of snap them together, mostly for test printing, so that way if the design for the peg that I made doesn't really fit the pegboard very well or the thread holder isn't good enough, I can reprint those parts individually for test pieces and then not really have to worry about reprinting the whole thing. Also, it would just make it a lot easier to have it modular, to not have a lot of support material on certain things, because depending on the design, I might have a lot of overhangs that need support and I want to minimize that waste. I also wanted to reduce the amount of filament that I'm using for the actual thread holder portion, so I don't need to print just solid plastic. I can have cutouts, and hence the X design. This is the original design that I ended up going with, and I did a couple of test prints and figured out a few things that didn't work, but eventually I settled on a design that works and that snaps together and I could print really easily. Okay, so now that we've got all of the thread organization figured out, I'm going to need to 3D print quite a few of the little peg snap together pieces on the 3D printer. I don't actually know how many I need to print. I know there's a lot because I've got embroidery thread plus serger thread plus actual sewing thread that we're going to figure out and hopefully get fit onto that pegboard. So I think while the 3D printer is running, it's probably going to take a couple days to actually get all the pieces that I need. But while the 3D printer is running, I'm going to try and tackle the pegboard situation in little bits. I'm feeling very overwhelmed with the amount of stuff that needs to get organized, and I don't have like a clear plan. So what I'm going to do is start with the electronics pegboard because that's already mostly in the right order and kind of in the right grouping. I just need to tidy it up a little bit and just move it over closer to all the foam and stuff. And then I think the one beside that pegboard is going to be where all the like non-sewing stuff is going to go. So like paper cutting stuff, heat tools, tapes, markers, that kind of thing, I think is the plan. I'm not like super sure where things are going to go. So what I'm going to do is start by little pieces, kind of put them up and then move them around. I'm just gonna like take it slow and do bit by bit over the course of the next couple of days while the printer is printing all the peg organizers that I need. So I'll catch up with you guys when I've got the 2 pegboards out of the way and done and sorted, and then we can figure out what to do with the sewing pegboard and all the sewing tools that are gonna go up. And just like magic, we're done! These 2 pegboards took quite a few days of fiddling with. I moved around a lot of different things and tried to figure out a way that made sense for organizing the items here that worked for me. We've got the electronic stuff over here for all my prop and LED work and all the like little Arduino stuff. And then all of the crafting general stuff is here that isn't sewing related. So let me get you guys a closer look of how I've organized everything and kind of what the priorities are on these 2 boards. And then we'll take a look at how we're going to organize the other 2 sewing boards. For the electronics pegboard, I've kind of got it grouped in zones. So at the very top is all the power, the battery packs, the batteries, the switches. The middle is all lights, so EL wire, LED strips, individual LEDs, which we've got lots of because we use them for all kinds of projects, both me and my partner. And then the bottom is all of the prototyping stuff, the soldering stuff, and all of the microcontrollers and Arduinos and individual sensors that we've used or are planning to use for projects that we've got on the go. The second pegboard is also divided into zones. There's glues and heat tools at the top. The left-hand side is kind of more tape adhesives. The right-hand side is all pliers and various cutting implements. I've got a lot of scissors for different kind of cutting purposes. And then at the bottom, I've got all of my markers and marking tools. One of the things I ended up 3D printing and designing for this pegboard is actually these jar holders. I have these jars that I painted turquoise a long time ago, and they're perfect for my Sharpies. So I designed this little holder that fits them exactly, and it uses the same snap-in peg system as the thread holders. And then I can just put the jars on the pegboard, nice and secure, and everything fits perfectly. And now it was finally time to organize all of the sewing stuff. I started with the embroidery threads because I have the most of them and they are the least frequently used, so they'll go at the top of the pegboard. I ended up cutting all of my dowels down to size so that they could fit the smaller embroidery cones and the larger serger and sewing thread cones. To organize all of my sewing machine feet, I created this little slotted box. I actually keep most of my sewing machine feet that I've bought additionally that didn't come with my sewing machine in their original packaging because it keeps the label of what the foot is used for on the actual packaging, and it has this like nice little container for that foot. So I never lose it and I know exactly what it's for, and it's really easy to find the specific thing I need this way. So I created this box in the same, again, system as my pegboard thread holders where the little pegs snap in and then I could just put it onto the pegboard. I also found these cute little mesh baskets from Ikea, and they're actually designed for their pegboard, but it's a different size and measurement from standard 1/4" pegboards. So I created this 3D printed adapter that I could hook into the back of the baskets and then use my little snap-in pegs to make it usable on a regular pegboard. To help organize some of the smaller things like my machine needles, my extra rotary cutter blades, and marking tools, I have a couple of other smaller boxes that were just simple box designs that I 3D printed, again using the same kind of idea for the snap-in pegs so they could fit on the pegboard, and that helped me organize everything a little bit better. One of the last things I did was 3D print this little basic bracket that I could hang this Ikea mesh basket on. Again, it's for the Ikea pegboard, but I wanted to hang it on my wall to hold all of my Ada cloth, and then just drove in a couple of screws into the drywall to hold all of my extra thrifted embroidery hoops. It's finally done! I'm so happy with how all this turned out. It took a lot longer than expected because I didn't quite realize how many cones of thread I needed to get up on the pegboards and how long that would take to 3D print. And then some of the bigger boxes took a little while to model and then 3D print and do tests. But overall, I'm really happy with how this turned out. I know this is probably overwhelming for some people just to have this much visual stimulation, but for me, it's really helpful to have all of the tools that I use on a pretty regular basis easily accessible on a first order retrieval basis, and then also just visible because I don't have to like remember which box where has the specific tiny little thing that I need. Especially with my corset making supplies, I use these pretty much every summer. I always end up making a couple of corsets or Renfest outfits that need grommets and the setting tools. So it's nice to actually have all of this. I genuinely forgot about some of the feet that I own, so this is good because they're always tucked in a bag somewhere, and when I'm working on a project, struggling through something specific, I forget that I have a thing for that specific project, which is great. So now I have everything accessible, I can see where everything is, and I can grab it quickly from my workstation. So if you liked any of the 3D prints that I designed for this pegboard and want to have them for yourself, I have all of my stuff available for free on my printables account. You can download it, 3D print it, remix it however you like to fit your needs, and hopefully that'll help you guys organize your space a little bit as well. And now that the space is organized and everything is accessible, I can get back to doing some sewing because I have an epic stash of fabric that I have hoarded for like the last 5 years that I really should get down to sewing because honestly, I'm in need of a whole bunch of clothes and I'd love to share that journey with you guys. So the next couple of sewing adventures will hopefully be up soon and I'll see you in the next video.